The Apotheosis of Science versus God of the Gaps. Question: what is God? Answer: God is a theological abstraction that human beings develop to serve a variety of purposes. As a theological abstraction developed by humans, God can be considered an abstract technology. Question: what is the God of the Gaps? Answer: the God of the Gaps is a theological perspective in which gaps in scientific knowledge are taken to be evidence or proof of God's existence. The God of the Gaps argument uses the concept of God for the purpose of explaining phenomenon in the natural world that cannot be explained by science. The God of the Gaps phrase was originated in the 1800s by a German philosopher named Nietzsche, who said that Christian priests put their delusional stopgap, which they call God, into every gap in human knowledge. The body of knowledge, which is science, is a great work which is progressively incremental and builds on itself over time. Gaps which existed in scientific knowledge 100 years ago may not exist today, and gaps which exist in scientific knowledge today may not exist 100 years from now. Because of this fact, the gaps in scientific knowledge, which were unable to explain phenomenon in the natural world, are unknown or hidden to science until the point in time which the explanation is discovered or revealed. New answers lead to new questions, which lead to new gaps in knowledge perpetually. Question: what is the apotheosis of science? Answer: apotheosis is a noun meaning the elevation or exaltation to divine status, and is synonymous with the word deification. Therefore, the apotheosis of science would be the deification, elevation, or exaltation of science. Question: how is the apotheosis of science different from God of the Gaps? Answer: the difference between apotheosis of science and the God of the Gaps is determined by how a cultural group of people defines and uses their God concept based on knowledge or ignorance. The God of the Gaps is the use of God to explain concepts that people are ignorant about, i.e. gaps in knowledge. An example of a God of the Gaps argument would be, since science cannot yet say what caused the Big Bang, then God must have caused it. The unfortunate side effect of the God of the Gaps argument is that it can make people complacent or unwilling to seek out the true answers. The apotheosis of science is the deification of concepts which people have knowledge about, and the people revere the knowledge as important and praiseworthy. An example of the apotheosis of science would be the exaltation of the Big Bang Theory itself. The apotheosis of science inspires people to appreciate science and motivates people to pursue scientific endeavors. Question: what are some more examples of the apotheosis of science? Answer: in philosophy, theology, and mythology, the demiurge is a creation deity who creates using science, technology, engineering, and math. The demiurge is an example of the apotheosis of science in that the deity is a scientist. Thor, Vulcan, Hephaestus, Ogun, Ptah, and Atum are all deities related to science, technology, engineering, and math who are considered the demiurge in their respective cultures, and thus represent the apotheosis of science. Other deities which were the deification of scientific concepts are Ma'at, the ancient Egyptian deification of truth, and also Seshat, the ancient Egyptian deification of accounting, architecture, astronomy, and mathematics. In ancient Egypt, even human beings who did great scientific works were elevated to the level of a deity, such as Imhotep, a deified architect and physician, and Amenhotep, son of Hapu, a deified architect, who are both examples of the apotheosis of science. Outside of religion, in modern times, we elevate science and our cultural mythology to the level of the divine in science fiction movies about superheroes with godlike powers, such as Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, and Dr. Manhattan, just to name a few. Question: are there deities in African spirituality which represent the God of the Gaps? Answer: yes. The ancient Egyptian deity Amun is the deification of the unknown and the hidden, a perfect literal example of the God of the Gaps, or a deity of the unknown. Question: besides the modern cultural mythology or science fiction, are there any other modern examples of the apotheosis of science? Answer: yes. Recall that God is an abstract technology developed by humans to serve some purpose. In the case of the apotheosis of science, humans deify the ability to know, facilitated through science. In the modern information age, the ability to know is facilitated through the collection and analysis of data through data science. Thus, a new term called dataism has been developed to describe the emerging significance where analyzing and using data and information for informed decision-making is of supreme value and is coalescing into a new form of religion. In this new religion of dataism, the algorithms become your God by advising you, recommending things to you, and dictating to you how to live your life. It is predicted that as dataism grows, human beings will allow algorithms to be their gods with the authority to predict and forecast their futures and make the most important decisions in their lives, such as who to marry, where to live, and what career to pursue. This is all seen as a form of data divination, where the various tools that you use to communicate with the algorithms or God essentially become the new oracles, prophets, and messengers of God. It is a fact that human beings create gods, and thus God was and always has been a technology, and people willingly submit to the will of the dataism God by using the new information technology devices of our modern world. Question: what is the benefit of the apotheosis of science? Answer: as previously mentioned, the apotheosis of science inspires people to appreciate science and motivates people to pursue science. There is a correlation between cultures that deify science to success in science. 5 of the 7 countries with the most STEM graduates also have a historical cultural mythology which deifies science, technology, engineering, and math. And you can count the USA as the 6th out of the 7 countries if you consider sci-fi movies, or if you say that Christianity is the largest religion in the USA and the God of Christianity is Jesus, who was a tecton or engineer. Once again, the apotheosis of science inspires people to appreciate science and motivates people to pursue scientific endeavors.